All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the great intro. I appreciate it. I'm Peter. You all are welcome. One caveat, I would say this will be available to you, the presentation afterwards, as it is being recorded, and it will be shared. So you'll have the slides that have what I think are the takeaways, the questions that you can use as you will going forward. I'm going to stop every now and then and just kind of let us all take a deep breath. And if you have any questions at that time about what we've gone over so far, please ask. It's fine. There's no point in waiting till the end. We will and take questions at the end. But if something occurs to you, put the question in chat or simply raise your hand, and Clay or I will acknowledge and dig a little deeper on that slide if we need to. All right, let's get started. Next slide, please. If story drives profits and growth, well, how does that work? Sounds great, but what do we do? Your story establishes a worldview, and the meaning driving the story is what reinforces your culture. Your story provides you a strategy or a roadmap for growing, for your growth. Having a story simplifies your messaging. It helps you provide consistent messaging. It helps you to recruit like-minded talent and inspire them to your cause. And a compelling story helps you attract customers and keep them. Again, it all sounds great, but where does one start with their story? And if we've been in business for a while, it's like, well, I already got a story. Something's going on. Some kind of story is being told either about you or you're telling versions of it as well. So where do we start? Next slide, please. It starts with the difference you're trying to make in the world.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, or what do you call it?
It starts with the difference you're trying to make in the world. Do you have a handle on what that is? Besides making money, what are we trying to do? Is it articulated anywhere? And the difference you're trying to make is probably not a business-like thing or an attribute. It's probably got nothing to do with things like service, quality, satisfaction. Everybody's involved in that, and everybody's claiming that, so it doesn't distinguish you in any way, and it's rather an expectation anyway. So besides making money, of which there is nothing wrong with, that's the point. What are we trying to do? Who are we trying to help, and to what end? And it's important to think about that. And I'm not saying that you need to have this splattered on your homepage. You could, I do, many people do. The great brands and legendary brands, that's what they do, but it needs to be articulated somewhere. On a bulletin board in the coffee room, taped to the screen of your computer, so that you're constantly reminding yourself why you wake up every day, and that you have a purpose that can sustain you over time, and your passion for that purpose can reinvigorate you during hard times. And the fact that you have a purpose and a direction when you have obstacles in front of you, now you're just using creativity, your God-given creativity, to overcome that obstacle in pursuit of your purpose, which we're all happy to do. But it needs to be articulated somewhere in your head and for others to understand and to agree with or not. Next slide, please. As these questions come on the screen, I'd write them down or capture them somehow in screenshots, or wait until you can have the whole deck that's sent to you after this from the BBB. And ask yourselves these questions with your staff or your board or your partners. and try to arrive at a consensus for each one. Just the process of doing that will take you very far. There's benefit in that. So the point of storytelling, yes, it is to entertain in many cases. That's how we see it, but it's to deliver meaning. Children's fairy tales, many are cautionary tales and nursery rhymes. Jack and Jill went up the hill. What's the message there? We have mythology, which has stood the test of time. Thousands of years, mythology has been around. What is it that makes those stories so compelling and last so long? What are they trying to tell us? Why do we tell them over and over? Why do we use them as models, as blueprints for more modern stories? Most modern stories are based on mythology. Storytelling is how we receive meaning. So when I'm sitting on the porch as a little boy in my grandmother's house and my aunts and uncles and my grandparents and my parents and my cousins, and we're all sitting around, they're telling stories after dinner, watching the fire, the fireflies. And I am learning as a little boy, what does it mean to be a Davis? What are the stories we tell about ourselves so that future generations understand who we are, where we come from? What does it mean? What do we stand for? What do we believe in? What values are we reinforcing with these stories? So as like a family or a tribe or a clan or community or a nation, we all have certain origin stories and stories that teach us how to live, how to be, what constitutes a good life, and to prepare us for inevitable death. It's big, big stuff. It's deep. I get it. And when we're in business and we're trying to make money and take care of our families and make our marks in the world, who's got time for all this? I get it. But if you're willing to take that time and answer these questions for yourself and use your answers as a way of crafting your story, not the story of where you've been, but the story of where you're going, then you're onto something. And I'm asking you to raise the stakes on your story. Don't play it safe. Don't try to be all things to all people. You may want everyone to buy from you, but your story will attract the people who are most likely to buy from you. And isn't that much more efficient? So we want to make our stories epic in some way, not safe. Because the more specific you are, and this is paradoxical, the more specific you are, the more universal you are. And when you're universal, that's how you stand the test of time. The truth that you are telling is universal. So Shakespeare stands the test of time. How many really awful high school and college productions of Shakespeare have we sat through? But we keep doing them over and over and over because the story can survive any bad telling because the themes are universal. Revenge, redemption, love, murder, jealousy. These are big. And I'm not saying that our business stories are about love, revenge, and jealousy and that kind of thing, but we need to raise the stakes. And we're going to talk about that, going forward. So let's just take a breath right now and see if anybody has any questions. This is the setup. And now we're about to get into the more mechanical aspects of it. Not mechanical, but structural aspects of storytelling. But up to now, is anyone are we good? Anyone have any questions or thoughts?
Looking at the chat, nothing coming through quite yet.
All right. Next slide then. So Christ told stories in parables. Every civilization, ancient civilization, had their own mythology. In brand storytelling, how does that work? Well, these are two good examples to me. They're dated. I get it. So am I. So bear with me. But the idea of just do it implies a story. And that's why I like it. Think different. So just do it is Nike and think different is Apple. When Apple came out with that in the 90s, late 90s, it changed everything for them. And they went on a roller coaster ride, all going up for about 5 to 7 years, that changed everything. Just do it. That's a big statement. It's both a challenge and an invitation. And they needed a way to, they needed something to represent that. It could have been a logo, and they did have a logo, and it could have been their founder. Could have been any number of things. But they needed someone who, when you recognize that, they found Michael Jordan. And there's a movie coming out about this very thing that I'm talking about right now. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are producing it and in it. So just do it. It's both a challenge and invitation, but it also tells the company that this is how we have to approach our own lives and our own manufacturing and our own design and the way we conduct business. Think different the same way. You just don't go to Stephen Jobs with an idea because he's going to go, is it different? Or is it just an iteration or a variation of something that we already know? If it is, I don't want to hear about it. The other good thing about these things, they imply story. They invite people to, it invites people who think similarly. Just do it. If you're action oriented, then you're all about just do it. If you're into beauty and form and function and how all those things relate to each other and design and all that, and you think that Microsoft and Hewlett Packard are the bad guys, well, think different is for you. That's why these companies, these brands foster such brand loyalty. And they're not just taglines. I want to sit with that for a minute. They're more than taglines. These are drivers. They give your brand a unique and ownable focus. A brand driver focuses strategy. It directs all strategic and creative expressions of your brand. It hones your vision. It establishes clear goals for the future and sets guidelines for getting there. A brand driver can propel transformation. It shows how the organization must change in order to deliver on the brand promise. Let me give you an example of that, how a brand driver can propel transformation. Long ago, FedEx came up with absolutely, positively overnight, or your money back. What do you think that did internally to the organization? There are a lot of people inside FedEx that were like, oh my God, who promises that? No one's ever promised that before. The stakes are very high. I don't know that I can deliver. Maybe I'll go work for one of the other companies. What do you think the other companies are thinking when they hear absolutely, positively overnight or your money back? It's a great story, but you got to deliver on it. It's a promise. And all the other companies are thinking, we can't do that. We're in business to make a profit. We're just trying to grab a little bit more market share and be profitable and responsible to our shareholders. Isn't that enough? Well, it has been, but not anymore. Somebody has flipped your industry. Now everybody has to come up with some express delivery and some big epic promise, or you're just a far distant number 2, 3, or 4, or forgettable in the shipping industry. It changed the shipping industry overnight. So in brand storytelling, these drivers, they're not taglines, they're drivers. And I'm not against taglines. I've got 10 of them. And I may use them differently depending on situation and context and who I think my audience is. but the driver is permanent. All right, next slide, please. There's only one strategy in brand storytelling. Make what you want matter to other people. If you can do that, and I don't care how you do it, if you can manage that intuitively, bless you. Make what you want matter to other people. First, you got to know what you want, besides making money, and clearly articulate it. If I can go back to the very beginning of the presentation, then it's a lot easier to figure out how to make that matter to other people. But here's 3 ideas. Be worthy, be relevant, be different. Be worthy. Well, what does that mean? You got to soul search to figure out what matters to you. What do you want? Why does that matter? What's in it for the rest of us if you get what you want? You need to know the answer to these kind of questions. What do you want? Why does that matter? What's in it for the rest of us if you get what you want? So you want to dig deep to find out your belief system, and you want to aim high in terms of what you're promising. Otherwise, why would I care? And if it's a matter of I can pick between one of these 4 services or products, I'm making my choice on values. If all things being equal, I'm going to pick the story that resonates with me. Be relevant. That's what I mean when I say things like, what's in it for the rest of us? Are you aiming high enough to get my interest and raise the stakes so I feel compelled to at least have an opinion about whether it's worthy or not? If you can show me what's in it for me and other people, then, a greater good, then I'm leaning forward even more. And in terms of being different, it's very simple. If you're not first to market, if you're not clearly the best at it, then you need to lead with your difference. You need to focus on what makes you uniquely different. What can you claim that no one else can claim? Loretta Lynn, Queen of Country Music, said, if you're not first, if you're not best, be different. And she was right. So some people intuitively get what it takes to have a story and let your story drive not just your business, but your actions and you're creating roadmaps and those kind of things. Be worthy, be relevant, be different. Those are the 3 legs of your story stool, your brand story stool. Next slide, Clay. Thanks. Whose story is it? Is it the company's story? Is it the customer's story? Is it your story as the salesperson or the administrator or the engineer or the person on the front line or the salesperson? Is it a partner story? Anyone else outside the company can claim the story? A board person, a strategic partner, a regulator? The answer is yes. Everyone has a claim to this story. When I keep saying what's in it for everyone else, kind of put all these other stakeholders, place them as the protagonist, the hero of your story, and see how that story lays out, and then compare those stories, your story, the company story, the partner story, the board person story, and see what common themes and story threads are weaving throughout these, and where do they differ? Where is their differentiation to where, wow, how did this derail? If you want a relationship built on values and trust, your customer is the hero. That's your default position. And that alone will raise the stakes. I keep talking about be worthy, raise the stakes. One of the easiest ways to raise the stakes is put your customer as the hero of your story, because the stakes are very high for them. You don't have to manufacture anything to raise the stakes. It's natural because it's their problem that you're solving. So the customer's the hero. What do they want? Why does that matter to them? What stands in their way of getting it? How does it feel to not have it? How does it feel to not have it? And pay attention, because this is where you come into the story. The story for them has already been happening before you even get there. And it would be nice to know how that is playing out, so that when you, in your marketing and in your branding and all, you have to know what happens before you arrive in their story. I hope that makes sense, because that's big. There's a lot you can do with that you haven't been doing, that now gives you an extra competitive advantage to be successful. How do they feel by not having it? That's what you want to address. What's different when they overcome the obstacles to what they want? What changed? What's the new normal for them after you've intervened and helped them overcome obstacles to what they want, and the bad feelings associated with not having it? Describe the new normal for them. And if you're not sure, ask them. What does your customer want? Why does that matter to them? What stands in their way of getting it? How does it feel for them to not have it? What's different when they overcome the obstacles, and what changed? Next slide. Everything I just laid out for you, all those questions, what does the customer want? Why does that? This is it right here. This is what I'm talking about. Story structure. Act 1, what's the situation? What does your customer want? Act 2, the complication. What stands in their way of getting it? Turning point. And this is where you enter, is the question of how does it feel to not have it? That's the turning point. When they've had enough of that bad feeling, that's when they do something about it. People act emotionally. They make decisions emotionally. We know that. It's science. We get it. We keep selling through logic and features and benefits and bullet points and all that stuff. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for that. There is. But the turning point is they can't take that bad feeling anymore, and they're going to do something different about it. They're going to take a risk. They're going to step out of their comfort zone and look for you. This whole presentation is about helping them find you. Branding is helping them find you and letting them know that when they do, you're going to take away the pain and replace it with a new normal. The climax, what's different when they overcome those obstacles? And the resolution, what's changed? Who changed? What does this new landscape look like? Do we have any questions around this? This is storytelling. You want to know how to tell a story? This is it. Every great story in Hollywood is a variation of this. Everyone.
I'm monitoring the chat, and I know it takes some time sometimes.
Yeah, people got to write in or.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm stalling for anybody currently typing right now a little bit. We got one from Mary. How do you tell the story without infantilizing the hero?
Ah, wow. I don't know that I can answer that. I'd have to see an example of the story to know whether it was infantilizing or not. But the question itself is incredible because no, you don't want to infantilize anybody, and you don't want to make them think that, oh, gee, poor you, you can't do it. Let me come in and take the milk off your face and fix your sandwich for you and cut it at an angle. No, we're not trying to do that. How about empathy? I would be empathetic and let them know that you understand their situation and that you understand it's hard to do things on your own. I don't know. Did Merlin infantilize young Arthur in trying to transform him from a boy into a king? He probably showed a lot of tough love and used a lot of humor and told a lot of stories and sat back a lot of times and let him fail. Did Yoda infantilize Luke in Star Wars? I mean, I'm not being silly. I'm letting you know what your role is in the storytelling if the customer is your hero.
She went on a little bit with the next sort of breakout from her question. So at the turning point, how do we structure it so that the hero is truly in charge?
So that who's in charge? The hero's in charge? Say that again.
Yep. So at the turning point, how do we structure the story so that the hero is truly in charge?
I'm gonna get there. In 2 slides, I'm gonna give you an example. Is that fair? I hope that's fair.
That's completely fair.
In 2 slides, I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to give you an example of, in narrative form, of this entire structure right here. Let's go to the next slide. Perfect question to set up the next couple of slides. Thank you. Worldview. This is where we started. The foundation of your story, and then you want to tie that, your worldview is the foundation, and you want to tie that to your higher purpose. So what values provide the foundation for this worldview? And that's why we want to dig deep into ourselves and do some self-reflecting and figure out, what do we stand for? What do we believe in? What values working together give us our mojo and our purpose? All right. Go back a slide. Yeah. There we go. I'm going to read the story now. Situation. Marla has a longing for a simpler, more meaningful life. Both Marla and her husband work. Their kids are busy with school and occupied with social media. All of their gadgets and apps are supposed to free time and make life more convenient, but actually they're just distractions. How does Marla create quality family time with a purpose beyond passive entertainment? That's her situation. Complication. Act 2. Marla isn't even sure what she's looking for. Hikes in the park, zoos, fancy garden tours. In each case, it's still up to Marla to keep the kids engaged while they're there. Turning point. We're going camping. Oh my God. Kids weren't ready for full immersion into the wilderness. Hubby pretended he knew exactly what to do and became a drill sergeant. We couldn't wait to get home. Climax. Marla shared her experience with a friend over coffee. Her friend told her about Aristos Harvest. It's a farm, a working farm. A working farm that teaches life skills. Well, so they went. Took the family. Marla loved beekeeping. The kids loved goat milking. And the family left with honey, butter, and skin care products made from these ingredients. Act 3, resolution. After 3 visits to this farm, the family was inspired and made their own chicken coop. They have 5 laying hens. The kids have a raised garden bed with lettuce, tomatoes, and basil. The kids do chores and seem to have a better appreciation for homegrown food and having dirty fingernails. So that's an example of storytelling, putting your customer as the hero. And I teach others to this little story structure, arc. Whoever you think your customers are, and you've got more than one, I'm sure, internal and external. You want to, as I did with Marla, you want to put all of those people as the hero of a story and work through this so that you have a better understanding of where they are when they think they have a problem and how they feel about it. And where are they when they decide I've had enough? And how you come in, how they find you, how they're able to find you. Oh, someone told us about it. Oh, I went on the internet and they popped up first. I mean, I don't know. There are a number of ways to find people. We tried someone else that failed miserably, and then I reached out to the person that gave me the higher bid. I wish I'd have taken it in the first place, saved a lot of time and money. There are a lot of ways to construct what that turning point might be. I hope the Marla story was helpful. You have my email. If you want it, I'll give it to you so you can use it as a template. Next slide. We've done that. And then the next one. There we go. What is your worldview? And I'm talking about worldview, the foundation of storytelling, and this worldview supports your higher purpose. Okay, great. This is where you get your higher purpose. Your higher purpose is attached to a vision of what the future looks like when you get what you want. I see a day when. As Peter Davis, I see a day when difference makers use story to attract allies to their causes. And when that happens, they fulfill their missions with greater impact. And when that happens, we're all better for it. That's my story in the form of this visionary statement and taking it 2 steps further. I see a day when business leaders harness the power of stories to attract people who are most likely and willing to buy from them. And when they do that, they have a loyal customer for life. I see a day when cell phones save lives. I see a day when we put a man on the moon. I see a day when children are judged by their character, not the color of their skin. I see a day when all people are happy with who they are and aren't always looking for something to make them more attractive. There are a lot of ways to take what you do in business and aim a little higher and think about, what are you really selling? When people buy from you, they're not buying the widget, they're buying the new feeling that replaces the old feeling of not having it. I invite you to answer that question now. And in the questions at the end, if you want to throw that out there and talk about it, see if it's aiming high enough, we can do that. But I see a day when. That's a vision statement, not a mission statement, not a higher purpose statement. They're all different, and the differences are subtle, but when you know them and they're all working in harmony, then you have a very powerful foundation for your narrative. This is your roadmap. This is your roadmap. And you build your business strategy and your brand strategy around this vision of what the future looks like when you succeed. All right, next slide. What do you do? Are you telling a story or giving an explanation based on a list? When someone says, hey, nice to meet you. What do you do? What are you up to? What do you do? Are you telling a story, implying a story, giving a snippet of a story? And because the story structure is the same, is universal, we can kind of plug in the missing pieces. If you give me act 1, I'm going to figure out act 2 and 3. If you give me act 3, I can back engineer, reverse engineer the others, because we're hardwired for stories. It's not that hard to do. It comes natural to most of us. Some people ask you, what do you do? Just think about it and go, wow, am I implying a story? Am I telling a story? Am I just giving a list? We do this, If we ask water, what do you do? I grow crops. I heal wounds. As a tsunami, I destroy coastal villages, and I carve the Grand Canyon. Which one do you tell as an elevator pitch? If you're a nonprofit, we do grants, we do educational programming, we do outreach, we have volunteers, we have educational program. They're always listing. We have an event. Oh, let me tell you about my event. We're always listing, and that's not interesting. Those are story killers. What does water do? It changes form and direction depending on circumstances. It has nothing to do with the list of the 1,000 things that it does. Essentially, at the highest level, water yields to the problem and adapts to the circumstances. It changes form and direction. So do we. It doesn't make us inconsistent or, gee, we're not sure who we are or what we do. No, water doesn't worry about any of that. I use just that as a metaphor. All right, next slide. As I said, it's complicated. Water needs context. Well, how hot is it? Am I going to turn into steam or cloud? Is it cold? Am I going to turn into ice? And it's the same with us. A good way to simplify the context is to make your customer the hero of the story, and that takes away a lot of the clutter. Next slide. Do you know why people buy from you? I spend a lot of time talking about the bad feeling of I can't get what I want. There are obstacles I'm not sure how to overcome on my own. And as a executive director of a nonprofit, I live in terror that I'm going to fail our mission, and that all the people that I'm trying to make a difference for, internally and externally, are at risk because I can't tell a good story. So knowing what you're really selling. I mean, science says people make decisions emotionally. If that's the case, do we know why people buy from us? What emotional needs are we satisfying when people buy from us? Next slide. This is important right here, this slide. These are universal, basic human needs. And in business, we're offering one or the other. Does what we offer help people feel safe? Are you inviting them into your community? We're a gym. It's a community. We're the Better Business Bureau. It's a community. We're a bank. We want you to feel safe about your money. We're a security firm. We want you to literally feel safe. Are you helping them find happiness? Where do you go to find happiness besides Disney? Are you helping them to make their mark in the world? Safety, community, happiness, make their mark. I get it if you're in retail and you're selling a bunch of different things that it's hard to kind of land on one, and then you just have to, then it's a different form of branding to where it's your personality that you're selling and your outlook on the world. Are you a helper? Are you a caregiver? Are you the class clown? Are you the jolly person? Those are all different conversations, but I'd land on one of these. And then look at which one you picked, and look at your answer to the vision statement. I see a day win. Are they in alignment? If they are, wonderful. If they're not, keep thinking about it. Make some adjustments or reach out. I'll do a 15-minute Zoom with anybody that's joined us today to go over whatever you want. Next slide. What do you do? We've answered that. How does it work? There are a lot of ways to look at this. Well, I sell insurance. Yeah. You want to learn how insurance works, I'll explain it to you, but that's not what I mean. How does what I do work? Peter Davis, Heroes Quest Consulting. Well, to me, I use two analogies. It works like theater. I'm the director of a play. My client is the author of the play, and we're going to stage the play and invite an audience to come see it. That's called doing business. The other metaphor I use is gardening. Branding is like gardening. Sometimes you look for fertile ground, your worldview and values, you plant a seed, your vision statement, you water it, and you tend to that garden and reap the rewards of all that tending, but it starts with fertile ground. How does what you do work? I just showed you how to do it, not literally, but I'm not going to explain the esotericness of storytelling and I'll bore people to tears. It's like sometimes the garden's there, you just weed it so that what you planted is the only thing there, and we get it. We get that story. It's a vegetable. It's a tomato. I'm going to put it in a sandwich or in a salad. Easy. Is what we do transactional or is it relational? Is it mechanical or organic? Is it logical or emotional? Is it rehearsed or improvised? Is it like making soup? Is it like making a quilt? Is it like a potluck picnic? Is it like war? Football's like war. Those analogies are, man, they're across the board and they're perfect. Are we following a recipe? Is that how it works? Or do we create intuitively? Is that how it works? Is there a secret sauce? Is that what makes it work? Does it work because I'm an advisor, or am I a guide? Am I a teacher? Do I lead as a general? Do I act as a partner? Am I a caregiver? There are a lot of ways to look at how does it work and which explanation is the best fit that lets your audience see, okay, yeah, I'm intuitive too. I can relate to that style much better than you want to cue your audience. Storytelling allows you to do so many things to invite people who are predisposed to wanting to do business with you. I threw out a lot of stuff on how does it work. And I'm not suggesting that this is part of your marketing or advertising, but you need to know it. Your brand wants to be self-aware of how it works, as we do. Next slide. What makes it work? How does it work? What makes it work? Hard work? Passion? Commitment? I don't know. Love. I love what I do. It works because of empathy. It works because we've got a visionary founder. It works because the team. It works because of our engineering department, because we're good listeners, because we're able to read the market and anticipate financial trends before they happen. I don't know, we just read the tea leaves and take it from there. It works because I'm able to read the room and move on a dime. It works because I'm the boss and you do it my way or it's the highway. What makes it work? Good for you to know. There may be a differentiating, you may find a differentiator. When I ask these subtle but big questions, the answer may not be obvious to you or why I'm asking the question, but if I'm working on the gig, I'm looking for differentiators and powerful things that you can claim that no one else can claim, that give you a competitive advantage. Next story, next template, slide, please. All right, this is the last one. This is what I did earlier on my own behalf, but this is a template. This is your story. So all the things we've done, our worldview, our belief system, our values as the foundation or the well of which we draw buckets called story and strategy and recruiting and all of that. We offer fill in the blank so you can fill in the blank. And when that happens, fill in the blank. I offer the power of stories so that you can use story to attract allies, resources, funding, money, talent, volunteers, partners to your cause. And when that happens, we're all better for it. I help nonprofits use story to make their mission real and to others. And when that happens, they fulfill those missions with greater impact. And when that happens, everybody's happy. Funders, staff, volunteers, board. I'd fill in those blanks. And if you want to test drive them in chat or in the questions at the end, we can do that. And ladies and gentlemen, next slide. Thank you so much. Here's the takeaways. Be worthy, be relevant, be different. Make what you want matter to others. This deck will be available, and I'll do a 15-minute Zoom with you to go over anything that you have questions on. You can reach out to me at peter@heroesquestconsulting.com. Anybody have any questions or anything that we can take care of in the few minutes we have left?
That was fantastic, Peter. Thank you so much. I'll keep an eye on chat, see if anybody has questions. Lots of thanks from everyone so far.
I appreciate it.
Ooh, we got one from one that, so Kendall used your template from the previous slide,
Sure.
I think.
I'll
We
do-
offer good design for everyone who you can better communicate your story with. to the world and grow your business or nonprofit to reach bigger audience.
Sounds good. That's a great first draft. I would say just keep iterating every day, look at it over coffee and see what happens.
A bunch more thank yous. So
My
think-
pleasure. I enjoy
yeah.
sharing the power of stories. It's the one thing that you own outright, your story, that no one else can take from you or replicate. So it's such an important asset and gives you such a competitive advantage. I want everyone to know how to use it to good ends. Figure out your higher purpose, put it in the form of a story, go out and do the good that you were meant to do when you were put on earth. That's my mission. So if I can help, reach out. And I want to thank the BBB. This whole storytelling thing really is all about trust, and is not, and that is what the BBB is about. And aligning with them to help y'all makes me feel great. It makes me feel better about what I do because I believe in them and I trust them, and they got all of our backs. And I'll leave you with that.